Ooh, what do you know? I was actually able to record this on a Wednesday. I thought I might have to scrap it outright or at least postpone it. Um, but nevertheless, I have returned from my brief hiatus that was committed to absorbing the um, World Juniors to its maximum possible extent. I considered having a mid tournament. You know, intermission, like, intermediary, whatever you want to call it, midway point assessment episode. But with this being so coinciding with the holidays, it just didn't really make sense. So I just sort of let things play out. Um, so we're gonna recap the whole thing. Uh, we'll only really save the in-depth game analysis with the full stats for the knockout round games, and just sort of give like a cursory glance in general summary slash summation for the round robin. Um, but um, yeah, like I'll give a bit of a general assessment, but I'll really dive in with the stats when it gets to the elimination phase. So the first game was, of course, played on Boxing Day between Sweden and Slovakia. Very competitive, but the Swedes, of course, were victorious by a score of 3-2. Um, Finland followed up with a 6-2 victory over Denmark, a game which uh, had long turns of being even more one-sided than the Danes, final margin of loss, a margin of defeat, you know, um, indicated. Because as much as am impressed by Denmark's, uh, in zone defensive structure, I just saw them just getting hemmed and not having like the breakout capability to overcome Finland's attack, and they just just spent too much time in their own defensive zone. It's just something that was, reflective of the mismatch status that this matchup inherently had. Very redundant statement there, but yeah, nothing really you can say. USA versus Germany. Uh, the US encountered some adversity in this matchup. There's no denying that. Uh, but nevertheless, they came out 6-3 victors in that matchup. A bit of a sloppy game on their end, but they took the power wins approach ultimately to make a Bill Parcells reference that not many people are aware of. Oh God, is this going to turn into another football tangent? No, it is not, because I'm going to stay on target and immediately go into Canada Czechia. Another very just cinematic game. I don't even know what to say. This was possibly the best game of the entire prelims. It just was had a lot of the theatrics that have been endemic to that matchup. More on that later. In this rivalry that's brewed between them over the last half a dozen years. Like 6 years in a row, those two teams have faced each other in the knockout rounds. They face each other in the prelims this time. Canada gets over the hump for the time being in that matchup by winning 7-5. Slovakia, Germany, kind of a nondescript matchup. 4-1 victory for the Slovaks. Uh, I think I'll take a quick look at this one though, stats wise. Let's see. Yeah, uh, yes, that was the Thomas Sharenko legacy game. That was really the defining characteristic for that one. Yeah, it's very solid team performance by them, but really with him showing off. But I did notice like he was finishing the plays, but I do feel like he had good team support. Like that's just that good playmaking to help him out. Like that kind of was how I remembered it. Um, let's see. Latvia versus Canada. Uh, this time Canada was able to defeat the squad that upended them in the most surprising result of last year's WJC. Uh, you know, what I think, it's also noteworthy that both goals were scored on the power play to really demonstrate Latvia's, 5v5 prowess in this matchup. The ironic thing is that I feel like even though this was applicable under the Dave Cameron regime, we saw Canada go all out with this under Dale Hunter's leadership, of course, because that's just how his teams play, as you know, if you watch enough London Knights games. So bearing in mind that the Latvian defensive strategy rests heavily on the neutral zone trap and exploiting teams' mistakes, which are inevitably going to happen when you play aggressive offensive hockey in the manner that Dale Hunter coached squad do. This might have been even more of a winnable matchup, and it was certainly damn close. So it makes sense, bearing in mind their overall philosophy that, Latvia has been such a tough out for Canada and did what they did to them last year. Like Leonard Feldbergs, who, of course, just today, I believe, announced his commitment to Merrimack College. If my collection of what Mike McMahon, I believe that was the source that broke the story, told. Like I think that was only just confirmed today. I believe I saw some speculation about it earlier than that. Don't get me wrong. The saves that he made, just the pure volume of them, and just that consistency he had played a part. But really, just like we saw them almost get it done again this year without him. Uh, and you saw a lot of similar cadences to the same game in terms of them. You know, exploiting, uh, Canada's play style just with their commitment to the NZT. And of course, Marins did his job with his 36 saves. Uh, certainly a good. It was good for my propaganda that Rejny scored his first goal of the tournament in that game. But in any event, yeah, it just ultimately a game that could have gone either way fell into the Latvian hands. The U.S. definitely encountered their biggest challenge of the tournament when, with Cole Hudson having suffered an upper body injury in the game due to taking a puck to a vulnerable head neck area spot. Um, Nevertheless, they were able to emerge forward 2-1 victors over Switzerland. Czechia defeated Denmark 7-2. No real challenge there for them. Uh, you know, uh, just quickly highlight. Uh, Man, 53 shots. Madness. Switching sides though. Yeah, I mean, 7 goals, 7 different goal scorers, getting everyone in. That's what you want to do in those sort of games. Just, get reps for different guys, overwhelm with numbers, etc., etc. Um, see, Sweden versus Switzerland was pretty competitive as Sweden found themselves being battle tested again with a 4-2 victory. Finland versus Latvia, 8-0. Not really surprising, even though the Latvians did nearly defeat a nominally stronger team. The difference is that Finland is a very fundamentally sound squad. It's just the coaching mentality that's imbued in that country at every level is to, be clinical, careful, not make mistakes for teams like that to exploit. It's just not in their DNA. So that outcome was not particularly shocking when you strip away, the context of the previous result for them in the tournament or the previous narrative. You just can't compare the Canadian and Finnish styles at all. And then you combine the fact that Finland has more depth and just what are you gonna say? Let's see. Sweden beat Germany 8-1. Nothing really to say here. Uh, a team that uh, entered as one of the strongest versus a potential relegation candidate. Uh, played out the way that you would think it would. And that's just all there really is to say about that. Yeah, Anton Frondel and Vigo Bjork both had 2 goals in that matchup. Jack Berglund also had 2 goals. In a good showing for the captain. Of course, the Philadelphia Flyers prospect the selected on day 2 of the 2024 NHL entry draft. Just making sure I didn't miss anything. No, not really. Yeah, Leo Celine Valenius, 2 assists. Alphonse Frage, 2 assists. Eddie Genberg, 2 assists. Yeah. Czechia defeated Finland 2-1 in a matchup of 2 very strong squads that both had an impact in this an impact on this WJC. USA versus Slovakia, high drama matchup. No Cole Hudson for the United States, but they were able to eke it out against a strong opponent. Um, let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of Sturmundrong in this game. Like, take a look at the scoring summary. Yeah, the 2-0 curse almost came for Slovakia. They grew it to 3-1, but then blew the 3-3. Went up 4-3. Went got it tied up by James Higgins 4-4. Higgins gave them the lead. Zellers grew that lead, despite the fact that I believe he was placed on the 4th line for that game, which was one of many issues I had with Bob Motzko's approach in this tournament, along with him just exhibiting his conservative coaching style, where he just has his team play not to lose and just overall lacks mental fortitude. Um, there is a certain rhyming with the way that his Golden Gopher squad, who were incredibly talented and really should have steamrolled their way to the national title, ultimately fell at the last hurdle in 2023 and lost in overtime in the national championship game in pretty quick order to the Quinnipiac Bobcats. But we'll get more into that momentarily. Nevertheless, though, the Bruins prospects in this tournament had a good showing that the fan base and the organization should be content with. Zellers, really looking like a strong trade acquisition. And Higgins, um, gave us a bit of a reminder of who he is in this and what he's capable of. Um, yeah, Shurenko continued his good form, of course, and brought it to 6-5. But ultimately, yeah, the United States was able to hold on. I had a lot of frustrations during that game, but ultimately they won, and yeah. Canada defeated Denmark 9-1. Uh, I'm not even going to acknowledge that any further. Switzerland defeated Germany 4-0 in a game that I wasn't fully anticipating to be as one-sided as it was. The 48-20 goal shots on goal differential definitely represents it well. Is um it felt like German possession really only happened in spurts. And yeah, it just this is just what happened. Uh Nothing to say really. Mm, Let's see. Yeah, Kimi Korbler. Who honestly, he was one of my favorite players to watch in that preliminary round. I enjoyed him a lot. It was good that he had two goals on. See, do we know how many shots on goal? Can I look at that? Maybe not. Maybe if I zoom out. I am zoomed in a little bit because I didn't like the way it looked in the preview. Yeah, no, just hymns. Should I zoom out even more? Y'all want to really, really go for it? Well, that's how we get everything. Let's see. 5 shots on goal. That's pretty good. +3. Not a lot of ice time either, with only 10-20 and a total of 18 shifts, averaging 34 seconds of ice time per shift. The Yeah, efficient performance by him uh, in his depth role. Can't be mad at that. And I guess this will be the first rabbit hole of the night. I believe I saw Ryan Moss scouting at Ryan Moss scouting on Twitter say that he was one of the best game score forwards of the tournament, if I'm not mistaken, and that does not surprise me. Yeah, he's had a pretty nondescript career in general. I I saw him play with the 67s a bit, and he never really like jumped off the page to me. I thought he was decent depth player at that age group, but he really every dog has his day. Those were his only goals of the tournament and accounted for 2 of his 3 points. So it's not like he tore down the walls, and he would have been a minus player without that game as well. But um, yeah. Uh, Anyways, where we at? Let me take a look at this. I don't know what feed I'm going to be signed into, so yeah, please follow him. His analytics content is quite good. What is this? Let me see. Yeah, no, that's it. Huh. Linda's on there in that top 20, but no Swiss forwards made it. That's surprising. It felt like they had some of their guys had pretty good shifts. Interesting. Huh. I can't even get over that. How the fuck was a Danish forward when how bad they were in this tournament? 11th in combined game score. That's amazing. I can't remember his first name, admittedly. I feel bad about that. I apologize. Ah, yes, Anton Lind. I apologize. Yes, Chiku to me. Yeah, yeah, I mean, almost a PPG. Yeah, very solid captaincy performance. But yeah, moving forward. That's interesting though. What a revelation to have while looking this over. Yeah, I thought let me see something really quickly. Yeah, I thought Mowgli made the cut at least. That's something I thought I swore I saw. He was a guy in this tournament who I kind of like consistently most had eyes on from for Switzerland. He was always kind of just having good enough shifts. And checks. I've been pretty high on his prospect potential for a bit of a bit of time now. Um, but he didn't make the cut, which I think he was one of the near misses, if I'm not mistaken. Hmm, interesting. I might still do a recap article on this tournament, diving more into, the torture math stuff that's out there and synthesizing it with my own eye test, as I like to do. We'll see. That was mostly my backup plan if I was finding myself not able to talk long enough to do an episode by end of day today. Let's see, where was I? It's 4-0 Germany is lost to Switzerland, right? Latvia, Denmark, 6-3. Uh, let's see. Switzerland somewhat surprisingly defeated Slovakia 3-2 on New Year's Eve. Czechia defeated Latvia 4-2. Sweden defeated USA 6-3 in a match that still, even bearing in mind the final score, uh, and Cole Hudson's absence was probably winnable for the United States. Sure, they were overmatched. Sweden was definitely the better team, but I just I don't know. Brady Noling was out of his depth in that game. His positioning was not very good on multiple goals against. They made bad mistakes. Cole Iserman, of course, had a turnover that led directly to a goal. Um, and the team just looked underprepared, and I do believe that Bob Motzko deserves to be blamed for that. Um, we can't dwell on it too much. There were going to be things that happened like this at this tournament. Canada defeated Finland 7-4 in a game which, of course, yielded the first four shots on goal, all going into the net for both sides. Like it was 2-2 when both teams had two shots on goals. The Carter George and I is it. I remember he's also a Kings prospect. I feel so bad for forgetting names on camera. Yeah, okay, so it was Petteri Rimponen. Yeah, both products of the Los Angeles Kings who probably are not looking very fondly at their goaltender pipeline after that. Allowed goals on their first two shots against. And then, yeah, goaltending and defense were not defining characteristics of this game by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, this is also defined by a dominant second period by Canada, in which they probably should have poured it on more than they did, considering they outshot the Finns by 15-4. But they alas only won that period 2-1. But that was enough, of course, for them to carry forward 5-4 lead in going into the final period. The second intermission, in which they tallied. Two more, including an empty net goal by who was at the time a London Knight, but of course, in a shocking move, has been moved alongside Jared Woolley to the rival Kitchener Rangers as the hot stove literally turned scalding after the World Juniors ended in the CHL. Um, I am aware. So now I will go on a bit of a tangent. It is a very fascinating state that things are in up there. Just generally, Carter George is now a Sioux Greyhound as well, as a matter of fact. And man, there was a big move in the WHL recently too. There's a few. Cameron Schmidt, of course, no longer a Vancouver Giant, for instance. Yeah, Joe Aginla was in that deal as well. Uh, yeah, Cameron Schmidt's now an Edmonton Oil King, which is unreal, unreal. Like I wow. Yeah, Carter Sutherland is now an Edmonton Oil King as well. I'll always be a little disappointed that it didn't work out for him. D+1 looked really good, and then he just plummeted in his D+2 with Prince George. Portland. Sorry, I was thinking about those two matchups over the years. So that my wires got crossed. Yeah, the Winterhawks look good, partially in like 23, 24, partially because he was just so dominant in his minutes on the second pairing, and then it's um. God bless the kid, though. He has Wolf Parkinson White syndrome, as I recall. It's amazing what he's overcome uh, to get this far in his career. But in any event, um, yeah, there was at least one more. Yeah, the deadline is approaching, but yeah, Braden Coots was moved to Prince Albert. That was a shock. Another guy who was on the WJC roster. Yeah, I just saw the Noah Kosick news like right before I launched this episode. Um, yeah, Mathis Preston was moved to Vancouver a couple days ago, and I haven't even had a chance to process that yet. Matthew Guard, uh, Austin Zemlak, that's going back a ways, but hey, it was since the WJC started. Um, but yeah, with regards to that London Kitchener trade, I understand that despite their status as basically you know, eternal nemesis akin to I don't know, Boston and Montreal or Chicago and St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, Boston, Toronto, etc., etc., etc. I could just say et al, but who even likes APA format, huh? That's a lie. I actually like it a lot. You know, I understand that trades between those two aren't unprecedented, but it's very interesting to see that London recognizes that, even though they are sort of, I guess you could say, overachieving with what they have now and doing relatively well to compete. They know that the cost for a Memorial Cup is high, and they were willing to pay it, and it worked out for them. They took multiple attempts at, getting better results each year. They lost in the OHL final in 23. They won the OHL championship in 24, but then lost in the Memorial Cup final. And then finally, they won both the OHL championship and the Memorial Cup this past season. And then on the back of that, they trade two key contributors in the form of O'Reilly and Woolley to their arch nemesis who are doing better than them this season. And that is really surprising, in a vacuum, but from that's just like one of those things where that's historic. That's probably bigger than any transaction that's happened between those two before. Um, but like from a strategic standpoint, I respect what Mark Hunter is doing there. So like uh, the underlying logic makes perfect sense. You have to wonder what's in store for them, a couple years down the road when that uh, turnaround is completed. Because I mean, as is, like they're looking all right. Let's take a look at the OHL standings and just go full digression mode here. Yeah, I mean they're fourth in the West. They're only 3 points back of Kitchener for the division. Of course, Kitchener does have a game in hand. It's not without outside the realm of possibility that they have like a Boston Celtics esque very successful bridge year uh this season. But nevertheless, you gotta you gotta start paying paying out the credit card at some point. So to make a reference to something stated by the Saskatoon Blades GM last year when they were selling off pieces such as Brandon Lazowski, who of course now is at Michigan Tech. And once again, we're going to go off on a tangent. Yeah, this he's about where he was the last time I checked in on him. I mean Colorado College. Sorry, the Tigers. Yeah, I think about it's because of Taden Trembecki. He was Michigan Tech bound. Yeah, bleh, sorry about that. As a matter of fact, well, it's funny. The most clear memory I have of Trembecki in his NCAA career so far is getting cross-checked in the back. Oh man, come on, load. Okay, here we go. Oh, he's doing good. How about that? Maybe it wasn't just the Rejny effect. Maybe there was legitimate growth in his game last year, and I didn't want to fully give him his flowers. Eh, eh. I mean, of course, Rejny did. There's no way him playing on line one with him did not activate something in him. Like that jump from 10 goals the year before to 46, even accounting for the 17 games played difference. Like playing with an elite playmaker, and as well as a guy who's an excellent two-way forward who can clean up a lot of messes for his teammates, is also terrific on the draw and can just create plays from that. I'm really that high on how good Rejny was in his DY even now. Um, like that definitely plays a part. But anyway, now that I've fully gone off the rails, the point is London surprised the fuck out of everybody, probably, with that. Though you never know what can happen with these CHL trade deadlines for sure. Um, but I understand why it happened, of course. And we'll see what's in store for them. They might have another era of dominance lying ahead. In any event, da 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 da. Let's see. Germany defeated Denmark 8-4 in the relegation game. Denmark is just basically playing seesaw with Norway at this point. Oh, go figure. Norway has been promoted up to the top division from Division 1 and will be replacing Denmark at the 2027 incarnation of this tournament in Alberta. But so it's just a matter of like this infinite cycle. Too good for Division 1, not good enough for the top division for both of those teams. And it's just like I do think that there is a possibility that Denmark maybe takes a leap uh in the near future because there are a lot of good things happening in the national hockey community and like overall apparatus of that country despite their low player enrollment and small number of ranks. It's just, Denmark beating Canada at the World Championships is only one of the many good things that's happened for them in recent times. And like even bearing in mind that the IIHF Worlds are kind of insignificant in the grand scale, I do think that was a monumental upset. I mean, among the biggest in international hockey history, nevertheless. And I think it represents something that's going on in that country. I would not be surprised if they surged ahead of Norway overall in on the junior level in the coming times because of that. It's just not something there the results are going to be obvious right away. It's going to be kind of a slow build, but nevertheless, it is one of the countries where ice hockey is growing, and that's pretty cool. Now I just have Lars Ulrich's trash can snare drum from Saint Anger playing in my head, specifically to the rhythm of the chorus for Frantic. My lifestyle determines my dentist style, bro. Actually, now I'm really going off the rails, but I actually recently purchased a shirt from the Maine-based mathcore band Griefmonger, one word, lowercase, um, where it is shiny suit era Metallica with their eyes blotted out, and I was like, this is like the best ironic mathcore band T-shirt possibly of all time, and that's saying a lot. And I had to get it. Definitely check them out if you're into any sort of heavy music at all. If you live in New England, go see them live, no matter what sort of audience they're playing for in terms of size or scene, they always bring the same sort of show. Um, but yeah, since it's the knockout rounds, we'll dive deeper into this game. Yeah, Germany stayed up, and they did it in pretty emphatic fashion. Multi-point games for Simon Seidel, who had 1 goal and 2 assists. Manuel Shams, 2 goals, 3 assists for Carlos Handel. David Lewandowski had a goal and 2 assists. Lenny Booz, 1 goal, 3 assists. Dustin Wilhoft, 1 goal and 3 assists. Maxime Schaefer, 1 goal and 1 assist. And not a lot of drama for Linus Villard, as he only faced 22 shots, stopped 18 of them. Not a very high efficiency performance, but good enough to keep themselves in the top division, so they'll take it. Outshot Denmark 37-22, including 14-4 in the second period. Although the irony there is that they played each other even. It was really the third in which things got blown out. That got the doors blown down. I'm not going to say anything about the shots on goal in that period as much as I want to. You can see it on the screen and know where my mind's going. At any rate, Sweden defeated Latvia in the quarterfinals by a score of 6-3. And let's see. Leo Selena Linnaeus, 1 goal, 2 assists. Anton Frundell, 2 goals as one of the best players at this tournament. Victor Eklund, 2 assists. Liam Danielson, never mind. I, I think I remarked on that. I don't know what it is about Sweden, like where they, obviously I know that this name is that name really rocketed to popularity in Gen Z for reasons I'm not entirely sure of. Which was something that was commented on, as I watched that game with a Wings fan friend of mine, who was quite a high level player in his day. Um, but It's interesting that Sweden really seems to have latched onto it, but I think English language phenomena, although of course, if you know shit about anything, you know that my first name is the Irish version of William. Uh, but phenomena that occur culturally in English language, locales and cultural settings probably uh take off more in Sweden because English is just so and just like media from that part of the world and just general influence from it is profound because they've been teaching it in schools for generations now, like several, if I'm not mistaken. Like I want to say even as far back as maybe like the 70s that was the case. because I kind of vaguely remember reading in Pelly Lindbergh's biography that he learned English in school, and they've been certainly been doing it, for like Gen's Y, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, very, extensively. So that might account for why there are so many fucking Swedish Liams. Anyway, but yeah, uh, Alphonse Free, 2 assists in that matchup. And yeah, nothing really to say about what Harenstam did between the pipes. Pretty nondescript game overall. Yeah, the Czechs beat the Swiss 6-2. Let's see. Yeah, good for Fibiger, man. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, let's just take a look at it. Adam Juracek got a goal in this game. Yeah, Fibiger, 1 goal, 1 assist. Uh, Votek, Chihas, yes. 2 assists in that matchup. Peter Sikora. It's not emphasized that like Sikora. It's even though I want to every time for obvious reasons. It's Peter Sikora, captain of that squad. 1 goal, 2 assists in this matchup. Anna Banach, 1 assist. Thomas Poletin, 1 assist. Thomas Galvas. Yuri Klima, 1 goal, 2 assists. Matej Kubica, 2 assists. Samuel Drenchek, 1 goal. Orslak wasn't really challenged a lot, only had to face 20 shots. 90 save percentage, or as I like to say, 900. Fun treating it as like a batting average. And I mean, that's how it's recorded most of the time, like in NHL context, for instance. USA, Finland. Man. I will never, ever, 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 ever forgive Bob Motzko for how this tournament turned out. Zeller's, had all that clutch time, and he doesn't get to even see the ice. I don't think in OT. Let me double check on that. Yeah, no ice time at all for Zellers, despite his clutch heroics in this tournament. And yes, the players did questionable things in terms of their choices in overtime, but the problem is, it's just like these guys weren't dialed in, and that comes back to a lack of killer instinct imbued in his teams. Um, and I just don't know what to say really. Yeah, another quick OT to end big hopes for Bob Motzko again in his career as the USA lost 4-3 in overtime. Thank you, Reichert Lee, who has been one of my favorite players to watch in the entire world this season, for making things interesting for a little bit longer. As Nick Kemp was pulled for the extra attacker. Yeah, of course, Eiserman also gave him a lead in the power play at one point. Hudson also scored the first goal of the game. Hey, at least Heikki Ruohonen had a good game. It makes me happy as a Flyers fan who thinks he might have some sort of pro future ahead of him, provided that he doesn't just continue to pursue a degree at Harvard and work for Big Pharma or something. Um, like it's a long shot, but you never know. Yeah, I, 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 I don't know. Let's just move on. One thing that I am consistently just like, very much, chauvinistic about. It was a nice turnaround for me though, as like I would have been very, if I were not such a USA hockey enthusiast, due to the increased amount of pride that they've really given us. and reason to believe. I keep forgetting that's there. I would have been very enthusiastic to follow this Canada team and root for them fervently. Uh, if it weren't for that, because like, yeah, I mean, Cole Resney scored a goal, and the primary assist in this, to start things off. Although it took quite a while, it was an explosion of offense in this game from Canada, as they were the highest scoring team in the tournament and had a signature performance in their QF against the Slovaks, winning 7-1. Rezhny scores the first goal, and it's assisted by Keaton Verhoff. Porter Martone also scores a goal in that game, and it's also assisted by Keaton Verhoff. And then they're coached by a guy whose style I really admire in Dale Hunter. I enjoyed watching this team this year, even though like I wasn't rooting for them per se. And I would have been mad for them if it weren't for the fact that I just have to root for the US in every tournament. Um, especially at the U20s level. Um, and yeah, they just absolutely just lit it up. The fucking 37-13 shots on goal differential after two periods is just remarkable. Jan Hovan had scored the final goal for the Slovaks, but yeah, obviously, the final goal of the game, but like it obviously not really do much of anything to really affect the overall look of this one. Yeah, Ivan Kovic should have gotten more game time. Like he just he was more prepared than Carter George was because he just played more. He's younger, sure, but like he's played more like high level, high intensity games. Playing for Michigan, because they play high event hockey due to their status as a good team. So he's used to these levels of challenges. TSN pointed that out, and I definitely agreed with them. Um, Whereas like Carter George, does not have this level of prep playing in the O. He might get that with Sue now, maybe, but certainly he didn't with Owen Sound, and I think that had an impact on things. Um, yeah, let's see. Sweden versus Finland was a very dramatic rivalry matchup. The Finns, despite having an inferior roster overall, definitely served as a threat and gave Sweden quite a fright. But ultimately, you know, the shootout was very, 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 very tense. But Jack Berglund was able to keep Sweden alive, and Frondell was the one who got it done. Uh, Man, I don't even mind that there isn't continuous overtime for just that one night because they gave me plenty of entertainment just through that and how long it lasted and how much of like you know, how much tension was built up over those rounds. Yeah, sheesh. Just look at the number of shooters, man. Yeah, Finland was able to force overtime late with Eunice Saaralainen uh, scoring that late goal with Heikki Ruonen and Artu Valila tallying assists, but alas, Matthias Vannanen was the only Finn to find Twine in the home run derby. So alas, Finland advanced to the bronze medal game while Sweden played for their first gold since went on to play for their first gold since 2012. We'll get into that momentarily. Yeah, So it is interesting to note that Canada, of course, overcame their quarterfinal curse from the last 2 years, in which they were both defeated. They were defeated by the Czechs both times. Got to exercise some demons with, uh, that victory against the Slovaks, and they'd beaten Czechia already in this tournament. It's difficult to beat teams twice, though, when the margins are so thin. And of course, Czechia eliminated them from a third straight WJC, just this time in the semis, or defeated them in the knockout rounds, anyways. Of course, Canada had another game to play after that. Um, yeah, they were just like, the Czechs just had the advantage throughout the whole matchup. But they also exploited Canadian mistakes and poor discipline, penalties, etc., etc. Oh, Gavin McKenna got a 10-minute misconduct from this game, if I remember correctly. Um, the goaltender interference calls, there were at least two questionable ones. I know I have some personal bias in favor of both players, but I really didn't think the Rezhny or Luchenko goaltender interference penalties were correctly called. Um, and just increasingly getting annoyed at all levels in how that rule is being handled. Um, yeah, ultimately, the Czechs just played the better game when it mattered most, and were able to put it away. Uh, there was plenty of back and forth prior to that point. Rezhny really gave it his all with those two goals. Mortone had a flair for the dramatic with his late uh, game tire, but of course Thomas Pulitin had a response. Although that there was some controversy with that one, but it definitely wasn't a kick in. There's just no way you could look at it and say that it was. Correct call. Wojciech Chias uh, closed out with the empty netter, and yeah, Canada overcame a lot in this tournament, exercised a lot of demons. Their goal scoring was better, including and especially their first period goal scoring after that had been an issue at the previous two tournaments. Um, they were able to advance past the quarterfinals, something they hadn't done. They beat the Czechs once, but they weren't able to beat them again. So Czechia therefore eliminated Canada from a third straight World Junior Championships. It's just that is apparently their arch nemesis now on the U20 international stage. Pretty remarkable. These guys have some familiarity with each other too. Like there's a lot of built up tension over multiple levels prior to this. These two teams have some familiarity each other with the familiarity with each other from the Holinka Gretzky Cup, for instance, and just man, there's got to be some frustration there on the Canadian side at this point. It's interesting how the tables have turned uh, in this rivalry. You know, this reverse Uno card now fully can be said. After three straight Czech defeats, there are now been three straight Canadian defeats in this matchup. Um, yeah, so in the bronze medal game, uh, poor goaltending was a defining characteristic again, but not to the same extent. As we had, um, let's see, Carter George stop 31 of 34 in this game. I mean, 32 of 35, right? Yeah, sorry. Uh, that's, yeah, Canada had 34 shots on goal. Very tight margins here, defined mostly by the Finns really going all out there in that third period. After, you know, entering with a 5-3 deficit, they weren't able to, get that final. They weren't able to bust the door down though ultimately, and Yeah, McKenna had the game sealer with Michael H getting an assist. H had a really remarkable tournament. Just to think, um, of course, I know that I disclaimer that I know that a post hit is a it doesn't qualify as a shot on goal because the shot is off target. But him hitting it multiple times, I think three in the semifinals. Um, And then having 2 penalty shot attempts, like, it shows, like, he had plenty of opportunities and just ultimately the finishing didn't come. Uh, but, like, he led the tournament in points and just think, he could have been an MVP and, the biggest reason that they were able to advance to the, gold medal game with just a bit more luck. Really just you don't see that often. Like, he was tripped on his penalty shot attempt, so he got to take it again, and then, of course, he, probably ill-advisably, went back to the same move and was stopped, and had his shot go wide, but, he really had a heck of a performance, individually, it just the luck ran out at the wrong time, but at least he went home with a medal and had, a few assists to his name in that last game for his squad. Four, in fact, 4 assists, not bad. Part of the driving force for that, but he had a very dominant individual showing, even going in. Nevertheless, there's the gold medal game. Sweden definitely looked decidedly like the better team throughout most of this matchup. Really dominating the pace and the possession. Like the tempo was just seemed to be controlled by them the entire first couple of periods, and it's really reflected by the SOG totals. Like those numbers aren't lying to you. But Czechia really surged back. Uh, you know, made things interesting with and uh, having scored I think 2 goals with the netminder pulled. But of course, Ivar Stenberg had the empty net icer uh, after having also got accrued 2 assists in this game. And ultimately, Sweden were gold medalists for the first time since 2012, and were able to exercise the demons of the past. Quite a lot of heartbreak going into this tournament uh, that needed to be avenged, and they got it. It would have been a great story for Czechia had they won as well, given that their only 2 gold medals were a back-to-back in 2000 and 2001. But it's just you think about the Czechs and Swedes. Like the Czechs have had some very good squads over the years, but Sweden has just consistently had this curse where they've performed so well in so many round robins, only for things not to work out in the knockout rounds. Plenty of gold medal game losses in the intervening years. They really had that Red Sox thing during the Curse of the Bambino type thing going on. Um, but at any rate, Wojtek Szczihas was voted player of the tournament, MVP, and I can definitely see why. But we'll take a look at the All Stars really quickly. Arnstam, best goaltender. Best defender, Adam Juracek. Best forward, Anton Frondel. Harrison Perek, Galvas, Hage, Frondel, and Chihas were the media all-star team members. Harrison. Yeah, just really some very, very cool things that happened in this. Picking a prospect of the week is nigh impossible because there were just so many guys that contributed to this win. Some guys got rightful accolades. So I'm just gonna say that the accolade is for the superlative that nobody cares about and no one asked for is shared by this team as a whole. The team that finally ended the curse that, as I predicted they would going into this tournament. And, really just some great contributions by a number of guys. A little bit There's a little bit more quietness from Stenberg than I was expecting, but he still played very well. Um, he found his footing and finished with 10 points in 7 games. And then you also had contributions from his fellow 2026 draft eligible in the form of Vigo Bjork, who had 9 points, identical plus minus. Very cool seeing them play on the same line on this stage. It's definitely something I would have been excited for. You know, uh, in 2024, when these guys were really becoming a couple of my favorite prospects. Um, yeah, Frondell definitely earned his flowers in this game. He showed a versatile toolkit. I mean, in this tournament, he lower PPG than those other guys, but very much very good game. Yeah, just overall that he exhibited in this showed why he's considered like an all situations forward, 200-foot game, all that. I don't agree with the I really don't agree at all with the persistent Alexander Barkov comparisons, but he still has it. He still has he takes a different path to similar results. Victor Eklund, 2 goals and 6 assists in this tournament. Yeah, Sasha Boumediene, of course, Boston University player. Um, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, +3. And of course, the Blues, potential goaltender of the future. Uh, Not necessarily, but you never know. Um, 911 save percentage and a 2.43 GAA in those 6 games. Only took 1 game off. Yeah, just Junior Corona is the prospect of the week for this episode. There's just too many guys who contributed to this. We'll give a quick shout out to the captain of this squad as well. Um, 3 goals, 7 assists, and a +9. Really won his minutes. Just provided so much utility. It was a good reminder of what he could do because he is playing in the SHL. It's hard to really make a dent at that age, but you can see you kind of have to judge guys like him based off of their overall toolkit and how they flash through. You can't look at the quantitative results when they're in a situation like that. Like he's one of those guys who can translate well, even if things don't look too flashy in his everyday environment. And seeing him dominate amongst the best U20s players um, is reflective of what his actual potential is. And it's really cool, that he was the guy who got to lift the trophy. He's definitely someone I think we should be optimistic about. Um, you know, I think about Philadelphia's day 2 approach, on in that draft, and they definitely just accepted that it was not a high skill draft and drafted for size, and that's fine because that's what you do in that circumstance. You take talent when it's there in the first round, and then just try to bulk up, get the pipeline bigger. Um, but yeah, I think that he's one of those guys akin to the likes of Shane Van Sagi, and of course, probably a slightly higher ceiling player overall, especially given what we've seen from him in the AHL in the form of Alex Bump, where he has those attributes that will translate well to the NHL and make him a good fit, even if the results in the quantitative sense are not the most flashy. And if anything, we might be. They're like the numbers. They're not as eye popping, I guess is the right word. But like Berglund does that against grown men, whereas those, an entirely like a pro league that, probably the second best league in the world after the NHL. Whereas Vinsagi and Bump do it or have done it in the NCAA, where sure guys are as old as like 24, but it's not the SHL. So it's like Berglund might actually be potentially a better version of either of those guys. Not to say their playing styles are identical, but in terms of like the overall like archetype and like you know uh general prospect um overlook, mm, I guess, that they have like in conjunction with one another. Like just the fact that he's doing that at that level, and then of course as this prowess at U20s is really saying something. But yeah, again, congratulations to Sweden on finally like beating the curse. You know, it would be cool if there's more in store like this in the future. We'll see what happens. Certainly going to be. I think the pack is, you know, I think the pack has the potential to be pretty tight. I do think that the it is worthy of note that the U.S. and Canada have better uh, training facilities and developmental apparatuses, etc. But yeah, like this raw talent that exists in the likes of Sweden and the Czech Republic is worthy of note. Finland, even. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Definitely a funny note that the London Knights apparently have better facilities for training and practice, preparation, etc. purposes than any SHL team, according to TSN, because Sweden trained in London for this tournament. That's where their camp was, uh, where they practiced, and that was apparently the consensus. And I find that kind of amusing and maybe representative of the fact that that's where the race the US is basically caught up or is damn close to what Canada can do in that respect, and there is a pretty significant gap in terms of just like the baseline of like the infrastructure between the US and every other blue blood hockey country. But these results are not insignificant, and Sweden has been presenting some pretty good draft classes between 2026 and 2025, and other where I think you look at someone like Leo Carlson. He was from 2023, of course. He was a very NHL ready prospect, and probably the guy who, even more so than Connor Bedard, was the player you could like immediately insert into an NHL roster and make them better. Uh, More so than any other team more so than any other player in that entire draft. So it's like the Swedes aren't going anywhere. They're going to be persistent. They're going to be a relevant presence on the international circuit, especially in lower, like underage brackets and stuff. Oh, God, I'm becoming very ineloquent. I think the coffee's kind of wearing off. Well, that concludes it for this WJC wrap up episode, as well as The reflections, on recent events in the CHL. Starting next week, I guess things will kind of revert back to business as usual, where the primary focus is on NCAA. Um, but we'll see what else happens. I'm always like surveying, looking for other things to talk about, be it CHL, be it MIAA. Eventually the Minnesota State high school tournament will happen. We'll talk about that. USHL, blah, 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 blah. North American Dev Deep Dive will always be casting a broad net whenever it can. And with that all taken care of, thank you to everybody who sat through this entire episode or watched even a small snippet of it. Uh, if you're listening to me monologue at this point, I commend you know, your persistence, and I thank you for your support. Take care. I will see you again next week.